All right, guys. So it is the big hypothetical going around right now. What if the South Tower had fallen on top or onto the North Tower? It's kind of a strange hypothetical. What do I think would happen? I think it would be a lot worse, not as dramatic. First thing you have to, understand when it comes to the Twin Towers, obviously both planes hitting them. You've got all the video, all the news on them, and then they both collapse at different times. It is, just horrible and horrific to see, and everyone was watching it. This would be a lot more of a shocking event, and I do think there would have been a lot more casualties, because you have to understand, when both of the towers got hit, a lot of civilians, a lot of firefighters, they thought, there's no way they're going to collapse. That's ridiculous. I mean, even looking at the hole that the planes created, it almost seemed like, not that it was a glancing blow, but okay, the building didn't even get rocked. Now we can see through different video that's come out, yes, the building was swaying back and forth. It actually was built to do that with the high winds and how high the towers were. But either way, the idea was, they thought a lot of the people thought there's no way these buildings are going to collapse. So you had firefighters in both towers. So if they both came down at the exact same time, you wouldn't be able to evacuate the North Tower and all the surrounding area, because obviously when the South Tower comes down, and it came down relatively right on top of itself, although it was kind of at an angle. I've discussed the South Tower and its collapse at length. The way it was hit on the side, the area at which it was hit lower, really caused, significant problems for the structure, because it had so much weight above it. And that had to do with more sloppiness than anything. When they were flying the plane, they came in at a crazy rapid angle and almost missed the tower. Well, I wouldn't say almost missed the tower, but it could have been a situation where one of the wings might have not even come close to hitting the tower. It would have just been way off, and the plane would have really distorted itself as it crashed into the side of the building, possibly with just one wing and the body of the plane crashing in while the other wing is completely open. But that's neither here nor there. The idea of it is, everyone knew to evacuate the premise when the North Tower came down. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. So if you're talking about them collapsing at the same time, it's a double whammy. It's a double problem. The way in which it would work, you can see this just, map of the World Trade Center complex, the South Tower to World Trade Center. You have the Marriott and you have the North Tower. So the South Tower going on, or collapsing on top of the North. You have to understand the way at which the South Tower is positioned in relation to the North. Yes, they're close to each other, but they're not right up against each other. So the area of the South Tower, if it were to collapse at an angle to the point where it would be so dramatic, it would actually hit the North, it would very likely be at the base, like the tridents, the lobby, the lower floors. The idea that it would hit in the middle, it's just very hard because it's too far away. Now, without visuals, this is kind of hard to explain. But the area that is in between the North and the South makes it to where, the South would be falling. And even if it was falling at an angle that was so dramatic to where it would hit the North, it would hit it a lot lower rather than hit it somewhere in the middle. And if it did impact it, like let's say the top of it, I mean, you can see the images of the angle at which it fell. Let's just say, let's adjust that angle to a crazy, more, severe degree, and say it nails the bottom of One World Trade Center. Would One World Trade Center fall immediately? Would it stay up? How badly would the, base of it get struck? I think it would probably fall pretty much immediately, honestly, considering the building was already in a very bad state, and it would be a lot worse, and the collateral of it would probably be significantly worse, and you would also have the Marriott completely destroyed in the process, which it already was. The Marriott had a very strange fate on that day. A lot of service level people don't realize it did get slashed in half, and then it got finished off by the North Tower. The South Tower slashed it in half, but either way, also you would have 6 World Trade Center getting absolutely destroyed in this entire process. Could you imagine if 2 World Trade Center crashed into one, or collapsed into One World, and then One World collapsed into 6 World, just in like a domino effect of buildings? And then maybe the Verizon building gets hit after that. It is a very dark hypothetical, but I do think it wouldn't be as dramatic as the one tower collapsing, everyone saying, oh my goodness, what just happened? And then it's like everyone was given time to gather themselves, and then the North Tower collapses. Like the craziest timeline. It would just be like just very quickly, and there would very likely be more casualties because they didn't know, and there would be no way to get out of the way. At least the people in the North Tower, the firefighters, other people on the ground in that area, because there were also a lot of, rescue people that were on the ground in ambulances that had to get away once 2 World Trade Center fell. If 2 World Trade Center crashes into 1 World Trade Center and causes it to fall, there's no chance of escaping for them, so it becomes a big issue. I've also done an outline of the potential damage that 1 World Trade Center did suffer. I've done videos on it. It had blown out windows. A lot of the lobby windows, the Trident windows were blown out. There is also rare photos of the side of the wall of the North Tower that was kind of it kind of hit a little bit, and you could see some damage from debris of 2 World Trade Center falling on top of it. But it really was still together remarkably, just because 2 World was too far away as opposed to the Marriott being closer to it, the Marriott getting completely slashed in half in terms of that. So I do think it would be a lot worse. It would, there'd be a lot more casualties in this type of situation if somehow, again, based on the location, I'm trying to set this up. It's not like 2 World would crash directly into the center at an angle into 1 World. It's just too far away from it. If it did go to a crazy angle, it would hit probably the base or around floors 1 through 20. That would be my best estimate, unless, because otherwise there's just no way it could fall at such a drastic angle to hit the middle of the North Tower and really then cause the North Tower to possibly topple over all the way to the Verizon building or even 7 World Trade Center in that scenario, because look at the angle when you look at the map right there. But let's just say, because this is a hypothetical, it did fall, the top of it fell at such a crazy angle, it impacted the middle of the North Tower, which would be the most catastrophic result of this. The issue is you're talking about more collateral damage to the surrounding areas. I would expect if it slashed, let's say the South Tower, the top of the South Tower, from the impact zone and above it falls at that angle, but the angle is so drastic that it slashes through the side or the center of the North Tower, you could see the North Tower, the top of the North Tower, possibly like a domino fall over, or maybe even spread out into a larger area and impact multiple buildings. And you're talking about a catastrophic situation. It already was a catastrophic situation, but it just gets that much worse. It just gets amplified. Again, I think when you look at the towers, it's a little bit of an optical illusion. They're not as close as they seem to, where I don't think that could happen. It would have to be at such a crazy angle that it's really not possible when you're talking about buildings falling. But either way, that would be the most catastrophic situation when it comes to that. And I do think it would, be very, very bad if something like that happened. It would be less dramatic. It would be more of just an outright complete shock, because everything would be gone and there would be almost like double the smoke if both of them collapsed at the same time. It would be terrible. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.